GTA 5's PC release is to many people seen as one of the best optimised ports of the game out there, and even then we've seen it running on some dirt cheap hardware ourselves. But today, in 2025, does the game run, and can you even play it online with just 256 megabytes of VRAM? Right, so for today's video we are going to be using the last of the powerful 256 megabyte cards, which is actually a weird and rare Nvidia Geforce 8800 GT, which was almost flagship tier back in the day. That day of course being 2007, which was 8 years before GTA 5 even came out, and for some reason, Asus decided to make an abnormally strange version of this card with just 256 megabytes of GDDR3 VRAM. And for those long-term viewers of the channel, you may remember this card actually popping up nearly 7 years ago now. But the thing is, I haven't used it since then, and it's just been sat around in a cupboard doing nothing. So the main thing we need to do first is to make sure the graphics card even works for this project. Now eventually, with enough prodding around, the card did actually give us a signal, just it was one so strange that my modern display couldn't actually decode it, and it would only output the signal when I physically propped it up right to the top of the PCIe lanes. So I had to hold the card in place just to make sure it was doing anything. But after whacking in a bit more of a period correct monitor, all seemed to be well. We had a display and we even had some downloaded drivers. It's worth noting that Nvidia actually gave these cards 8 years of support, with driver support actually ending after 2015, with drivers that actually came out optimized for running GTA 5. Because trust me, if your drivers don't actually have the optimizations this game needs, then you're not in for a good time. There's probably very few people that remember the launch, and it was sort of a rush from AMD, Nvidia, and even Intel on the HD cards to actually get drivers out that ran the game properly. And then, of course, with the video, things got worse, as the card seemingly decided that after 7 years sat in a drawer, it no longer likes to exist or work. Given this isn't the focus of the video, we're not going to be delving too deep into it, but with a good wash, some carburetor cleaner, and a good blast of heat, the card was revived and worked fine. And don't worry, it ran through a good few hours of 3D Mark to make sure the card was okay. I think really the board was just a bit grimy from sitting around for so long, so the card is fine, which is good news. But it did mean we could take a look at how GTA 5 was running out of the box without any tweaks, just the lowest possible settings you can actually get the game to run in from the settings menu. And things seemed fine at first. That is up until you started moving, and the frame rate crumbles away as our VRAM usage soars well past 256 megabytes, and then there was hitches, and there were stutters, but these were the least of our worries, because what happened more frequently were the crashes. As even after just a couple of minutes of gameplay, even just a few seconds of gameplay depending on how quickly you started moving, or if you started the game wrong, which is such a weird thing, the game would completely crash out with a nice DirectX error. And the reason for this was after monitoring MSI Afterburner, it showed that we were using over twice as much VRAM as the card had at the moment we started moving. And I did try some older drivers and things like that, but realistically, the game has received a lot of updates since we last tested it, and it doesn't like working with VRAM levels this low anymore. Now this is where the real fun starts, trying to get the game not just stable, but running well. So I spent around the next hour or so tweaking around with every setting both within the game and outside of the game to try and make things run better. This included everything from removing all the shadows in the game, dropping the resolution back to just over 240p, which should be the set of tweaks that everyone on this channel that's watched this channel has seen before, because we usually run the game in 240p with no shadows when we're talking about garbage cards like the GT210 and things like that. But that wasn't enough, because the game was still crashing with these settings. We were simply going over the VRAM limit, so we started removing more things. We got rid of the reflections, which does still disable most of them, sadly not all of them, and the one big change that really helped and actually did stop a lot of the crashing was stopping the game from streaming in higher resolution textures just up until the moment you were close to them. And this was with using the mid-setting LOD assets. I had to do a lot of tweaking around with 0.125 numbers and things like this. So right up until the moment you were in front of a texture, it was only allowed to use the poorest quality assets. You know, the ones that you usually see in the distance? You were seeing them until you got right close to them. And fortunately, at this resolution, it wasn't really a problem. We also had an issue to fix, which was the stuttering, which fortunately we managed to get away with by capping the frame rate and gradually increasing it upwards in an external program, which was MSI Afterburner, providing those lovely little displays in the top left, until we were 100% sure that we had a nice stable game that wouldn't crash and returned a pretty solid 30 FPS. So you join me after we've got everything set up, and we're here using the 8800 GT card from Nvidia, which most people are probably thinking that was a flagship or at least a higher end card, but most people forget that they did release a version, or Acer seemed to have released a version, with just 256 megabytes of VRAM. And we did look at it a few years ago, but a lot of things have changed since then. But as you can see, we've managed to get GTA 5 running, and not just running, but stable. This doesn't crash anymore. I've had it running this scene here for half an hour, 45 minutes, and touch wood, it has been completely stable. So we have made some great progress on this. But the thing is, we want to find out, is it actually playable? Because you can probably just about make out, this looks absolutely hideous. But there is a stable frame rate, and I will get into how we've managed to do that if I haven't already. But yeah, we're ready to find out, can you play GTA, and mostly GTA Online, which is the thing I wanted to test, on just 256 megabytes of VRAM in 2025. So you'll have to forgive this slightly janky setup we've got going on here, but this is the best way I've got of showing you, is with both a screen recording and just filming the screen, so you know this is running on this here 8800 GT, because there's nothing else in this computer that can produce a display. And what we've done is we've got the game running in, I think this is around 240p, with no shadows, no reflections, and the level of detail draw distance turned right down. So what that means is the game can't start drawing details until you're right close to them. And the best example I can give of this is if we walk over to a building, you'll see that it stays with the distant texture right up until we're in front of it. And that's the best way of showing it there. But see, GTA 5, just running around and actually playing the game, is running alright. Now, we are seeing 30 FPS, and that's because I've locked it externally to 30 FPS. Because if you keep an eye on this memory figure, we've managed to get memory usage down to 245 to 246 megabytes, which is extraordinarily low for GTA 5. But the main thing is, what happens when we go online? Because we can see here, GTA 5 single player, once it's running, it tends to be fairly stable. But GTA Online, well, that's another mess by itself. So we've just loaded into GTA Online, and I can safely tell you that the frame rate does get better than this, because it is still trying to draw some reflections for an unknown reason, even though they are completely disabled. So there's no way you can fix that. For some reason, the inside of the garage is one of the worst performing areas I've ever tested when I tried GTA. But the actual outside areas of GTA Online run far better than they have any right to. I mean, we are still seeing a locked 30 FPS here in what is a completely full lobby. Now, we will try and make the frame rate go down, but as it stands at the moment, you're going to be seeing lag spikes here and there, and for some reason the aspect ratio, I've just noticed, is rather squashed, so we do look rather small on the road there. But frankly, changing any more graphics settings than this, even the aspect ratio, makes this card so unstable it will crash. And I know people are going to say, have you tried different drivers? Have you tried things like this? At the end of the day, it's GTA 5, it's come a long way in the 10 years it's been on the market, and the last time we even looked at running this game on this card was 7 years ago now. So 7 years was the last time we saw this game launch on this graphics card, and it has got a lot more intensive than that since then. But the game does run remarkably well. I mean, it looks like a PlayStation 1 title, and people sort of float off the ground. They're just sort of floating there, but these are all things that you can just ignore and enjoy, and just carry on while you play GTA. I mean, the VRAM usage doesn't get too low. I mean, the main thing is, can we get a jet of some sort? I don't know how we get a jet. It's been a very long time since I've tried playing this. So we can try and get a jet or a plane and try and cause some destruction, see if what we can get the frame rate down to, or if it spontaneously crashes. But I think we've got it stable enough to actually be enjoyable. Right, let's try and get this. My GTA playing is not going to be brilliant, because the last time that I properly played GTA, it was still on the Xbox 360. So this is actually a step down from how I remember it. But we'll go and get a plane and we'll try and do something. We'll just try and make the game crash or drop frames, because don't be wrong, we can see there up on the frame time graph that we are getting like lag spikes and frame dips in certain places. But it is sticking to 30 FPS and we are not going over 248 megabytes of VRAM usage, which is absolutely astonishing. We've managed to get the game running this well with settings this low. It does make me wonder if maybe we could make things go a little bit higher, but I spent about an hour testing every different combination of settings to see what we could get that it was stable, because stability was the main thing. We could get the game running at an okayish frame rate with some settings, but then it would exceed the RAM limit and it would all just completely mess up and everything would be completely broken. But I'm not really seeing any problems with this. I mean, don't get me wrong, the resolution's not great. It certainly has seen better days, but it's rather easy to play. I can still see what I'm doing, I can still tell where I'm going. And the actual GPU usage is only peaking out at 61%, which could be down to poor utilization in GTA Online, but it could also just be down to we've managed to tweak the game low enough that the graphics card isn't actually having to do anything. Now, how do I fly this thing? Is one of the big questions. I think that's it. Right, there we go. And then I think it used to be G. Yep, there we go. So, let's see if we can cause some issues with streaming and things like that. Once again, my GTA playing is downright terrible. But here we are, fully packed lobby, and flying around in a jet. No problems. Can we cause explosions? How do we cause explosions? There we go, we've got missiles. I don't know how we use them. Are we even shooting them? Oh, I have no idea what I'm doing and I can't remember. Well, explosions do cause a slight frame drop, down to about 26 FPS, which isn't too bad, but overall I'm going to call this a great success. I'm going to say GTA, and by extension GTA Online, which is quite hard to run these days with utilization problems, runs absolutely fine on 256 megabytes of VRAM. So there should be no more complaining, because there's a lot of cards a lot more powerful than this with a lot more VRAM. So at the end of the day, we've learnt that this will run, which is some good news. So there we have it, proving that to a degree, even with just 256 megabytes of VRAM, you can actually get by playing one of the most popular games out there, GTA 5, because this truly is one of the greatest optimized games out there. I mean, look at the graphics card we're using. We are playing on technology from 2007. And even then, this isn't a good version of this card. I'm sure with an actual 8800 GTS with more VRAM and things like that, you could get away with high definition and actual textures and actual resolution. But still, with VRAM being the big topic it is at the moment, with lots of cards shipping out with far too little and things like that, I think we're going to have to carry on to try and see how far we can push things with these popular games running with just minimal amounts. Because when you actually think about it, this is still one of the most popular games out there. And you can get away with playing it even online, which is more intensive than it's ever been, with the minimal amount of VRAM that I could think of. I hope you've all enjoyed this fun little video, and if you do want to see things like this carry on as a series, please do let me know by telling me, subscribing, I don't know, those types of things. But yeah, they're certainly fun to see, even if they are a pain to get running. So thank you all, and good night.